Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when you must confront the truth that the path you are running on is not leading you toward fulfillment, but slowly draining the very strength you thought it would give you. Many people spend years chasing something they believe will complete them: success, validation, perfection, comfort, control. They pour their energy, their health, and their peace into the pursuit, never questioning whether the destination is worth the price. But sometimes the very thing you are chasing is the very thing that is killing you. You chase success, convincing yourself that once you achieve enough, you will finally rest. But the pursuit never ends. Each achievement becomes the beginning of the next race, and the exhaustion becomes a constant companion. You tell yourself you must keep pushing, even when your body is begging for rest, and your mind is suffocating under pressure. You chase approval, believing that if enough people admire you, you will finally feel confident. But approval is a bottomless pit. The more you get, the more you need. You shift into what others want you to be, and lose the ability to recognize the sound of your own voice. You chase perfection, thinking it will protect you from criticism or failure. But perfection is a moving target, one that punishes every mistake and steals joy from every accomplishment. You end up living in fear of being seen as flawed, fear of not being enough, fear of disappointing others. You chase control, believing you can force life into a shape that guarantees safety. But life refuses to be controlled. The tighter you grip, the more you suffer, because control offers anxiety instead of security. And while you chase these things, something inside you slowly fades. The excitement becomes anxiety. The ambition becomes pressure. The discipline becomes self-punishment. The desire becomes dependency. You forget why you began in the first place. What once felt inspiring now feels suffocating. What once felt meaningful now feels like a burden you drag through every day. Without noticing, you begin to run not toward your life, but away from it. The world tells you to keep going even when everything inside you whispers that something is wrong. Society praises the non-stop grind, celebrates exhaustion as dedication, and glorifies the chase as if running faster is the same as living better. But speed is meaningless if the direction is wrong. Success is meaningless if it destroys your peace. Achievement is meaningless if it requires abandoning yourself. You must pause long enough to ask the questions most people avoid. What is this pursuit doing to me? Who am I becoming because of it? What am I sacrificing? And is it worth it? If a pursuit demands the death of your joy, your health, your authenticity, or your peace, then it is not ambition. It is self-destruction dressed as progress. What you chase shapes you. It reshapes your habits, your relationships, your identity, and your future. If you chase something that nourishes you, growth, purpose, balance, integrity, it will expand your life. But if you chase something that drains you, it will shrink your life until you become a shadow of the person you were meant to be. The truth many people never face is that you cannot outrun emptiness. You cannot outwork insecurity. You cannot achieve your way out of self-neglect. You cannot chase something that harms you and expect it to heal you. The moment you realize this, everything changes. Because clarity is the beginning of freedom. Awareness is the beginning of strength. And choosing a different path is the beginning of reclaiming your life. There is extraordinary power in stopping, in stepping back, in asking yourself whether the chase is costing you more than it gives. There is courage in refusing to sacrifice your well-being for an illusion. There is wisdom in recognizing that your life is worth more than a race you never chose. You are not here to chase what destroys you. You are here to choose what sustains you, what grounds you, what brings you alive. When you finally understand that, the chase ends, and the living begins. The pursuit becomes the prison when the very thing you chase becomes the force that restricts you. This transformation is subtle, gradual, and often invisible at first. It begins with a simple desire: success, admiration, perfection, security, or the need to prove yourself. These desires are not inherently harmful. In fact, many of them arise from natural human instincts. But the moment a desire transforms into an obsession, the pursuit shifts from something you choose to something that controls you. What once inspired you begins to dominate you. Instead of moving with purpose, you begin moving with compulsion. Instead of guiding your life, it begins consuming it. Chasing a goal can feel empowering in the beginning. There is excitement, energy, momentum. You feel alive with direction. But over time, if the pursuit is not balanced with awareness, it starts to demand more from you. You begin sacrificing your rest, your peace, your relationships, and even your health. The pursuit grows hungrier, requiring constant feeding, more effort, more time, more sacrifice. You tell yourself it's temporary, that once you achieve the goal, you'll finally slow down. But by then the pursuit has reshaped your identity. You become the person who runs, the person who strives, the person who never pauses. Stopping feels dangerous. Slowing feels like failure. You become trapped in the momentum you created. This is how the prison forms. It is not made of walls but of habits, fears, and expectations. It is built from internal pressure and reinforced by external validation. You start caring more about how others perceive you than how you feel inside. You cling to the pursuit because stepping away might mean confronting emptiness, insecurity, or questions you've avoided. The pursuit becomes a shield, something you hide behind, something that keeps you busy enough to avoid looking inward. You convince yourself you're being productive, when in truth you may be running from something far more important yourself. The strange thing is that the world often praises this kind of prison. Society rewards business, hustle, sacrifice, and unending ambition. It glamorizes exhaustion and labels it dedication. It applauds the person who never stops, even as that person drifts further from balance, intention, and inner clarity. The world may value what you accomplish, but only you feel the cost of your pursuit. And sometimes the cost is far greater than the reward. The pursuit of success can cost peace. The pursuit of approval can cost authenticity. The pursuit of perfection can cost well-being. The pursuit of control can cost joy. You begin to adjust your life around the pursuit. You stop doing things you once loved because they don't contribute to your goal. You distance yourself from people who remind you to rest because their presence feels like a threat to your pace. You silence the signals from your body and mind, pushing through discomfort, telling yourself you will rest later, but later keeps moving further away. Your dreams, once healthy motivations, now feel like obligations. You start waking up not because you are inspired, but because you are afraid of falling behind. The pursuit becomes a weight, and you carry it even in your sleep, even in your moments of supposed rest. Eventually, the pursuit defines your worth. If you succeed, you feel acceptable. If you fall short, you feel unworthy. You measure your value by progress, productivity, and external outcomes. The pursuit becomes the judge, and you are always on trial. You convince yourself that achieving more will finally set you free, but achievement only reinforces the cycle. Every milestone is followed by the next. Every accomplishment loses its meaning as soon as it is reached. You climb a ladder that has no end, unable to see that it only leans deeper into the prison you unknowingly built. True imprisonment is not being forced into something. It is believing that you have no choice but to continue. The pursuit becomes the prison when you forget that life is more than the chase. When you forget that value lies not in what you reach, but in who you become. When the goal becomes more important than the journey. When your identity becomes tied to a finish line that keeps moving further away. The pursuit becomes the prison when the chase owns you more than you own yourself. Not everything you want is good for you. Yet this truth is often hidden beneath the emotional intensity of desire. Wanting something can create a powerful illusion, one that convinces you that the object of your desire will bring fulfillment, security, or happiness. But desire is not a compass. It does not naturally point toward what nourishes you. It often points toward what stimulates you, excites you, or distracts you. And because desire can be loud, persuasive, and persistent, it can easily mislead you into believing that its presence proves the value of what you are chasing. In reality, desire can be shaped by fear, insecurity, habit, or social pressure rather than by genuine need or wisdom. Many desires are learned rather than deeply felt. You learn to want what others celebrate. You learn to want what society calls success. You learn to want what appears glamorous or admirable. You learn to want what temporarily numbs discomfort. But just because a desire is common does not make it healthy. Just because it is validated by others does not make it meaningful. Just because it feels urgent does not mean it is right for you. Wanting something can come from wounds rather than clarity. You may desire approval because you fear rejection. You may desire control because you fear uncertainty. You may desire constant activity because stillness forces you to face parts of yourself you've avoided. Desire, when rooted in fear, becomes a trap disguised as a reward. Modern life amplifies desires that drain rather than sustain. The desire to be admired encourages people to curate images rather than cultivate character. The desire for comfort leads to choices that weaken discipline and resilience. The desire for comparison makes people abandon their own path to compete in races they were never meant to run. The desire to feel important leads to overwork, burnout, and detachment from what truly matters. These desires may feel natural, but they often emerge from unmet needs: the need to feel valued, the need to feel competent, the need to feel seen. When these internal needs are ignored, desire becomes louder, more demanding, and more manipulative. There is a difference between what feels good and what is good. Many things that feel good in the moment take more than they give. The temporary thrill of validation may come at the cost of authenticity. The comfort of staying in your routines may come at the cost of growth. The pleasure of avoiding responsibility may come at the cost of self-respect. The appeal of short-term gratification may come at the cost of long-term peace. Wanting something does not guarantee that it will nourish your mind, body, or spirit. Some desires soothe the surface while damaging the foundation. Understanding this requires self-awareness rather than self-judgment. It is not wrong to desire. Desire is human. The problem is allowing desire to lead without questioning it. The moment you pause and examine a desire, you begin to see its origin. You can ask yourself whether the desire comes from wisdom or insecurity, from growth or avoidance, from longing or fear. Many desires crumble under the weight of honest reflection. They lose their intensity when you realize they were only comforting illusions. Others reveal their emptiness when you recognize that their pursuit leads you away from your values, your health, or your relationships. Sometimes the most dangerous desires are the ones that look harmless. The desire to help others can turn into self-neglect. The desire to be disciplined can become self-punishment. The desire to be excellent can morph into perfectionism. The desire to achieve can fuel an identity built entirely on performance. These desires appear noble, but they can slowly erode inner stability. When a desire becomes a way of proving your worth, it stops being healthy. It becomes a burden that chips away at your freedom and self-compassion. True wisdom lies in distinguishing between what you want and what you need. Needs are quieter but deeper. They point towards stability, clarity, connection, and well-being. They may not offer instant gratification, but they create lasting fulfillment. Needs require patience and honesty, while desires often demand speed and excitement. When you follow your needs instead of your cravings, you move toward wholeness rather than intensity. Learning that not everything you want is good for you is not about suppressing your desires. It is about understanding them. It is about recognizing that desire alone is not a reliable guide. It is about developing the strength to pause before you pursue, to reflect before you act, and to choose what truly supports your growth, rather than what merely appeases your impulses. Your habits reveal your destination because they create the unseen architecture of your future long before you ever arrive there. Many people believe their future is shaped by willpower, big decisions, or moments of inspiration. But the truth is far more subtle. Your life moves in the direction of what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally wish for. Habits are like quiet guiding forces, shaping the path beneath your feet one small action at a time. Even when you do not realize it, your habits are building your character, your identity, and the quality of your life. Every habit you engage in is a small expression of your values, even if you are not consciously aware of it. If you choose discipline over distraction, you are reinforcing a future where focus and achievement are possible. If you choose avoidance over responsibility, you are reinforcing a future where regrets and unfinished goals accumulate. Each repeated action strengthens a certain path, and whichever path becomes strongest becomes the one you eventually walk. This is why your habits reveal your destination. They expose the direction of your commitment long before the result becomes visible. Most people underestimate the power of small, daily actions. They believe change requires dramatic transformation, but transformation is actually the result of accumulated habits. A person who reads a few pages every day becomes knowledgeable over time. A person who exercises consistently becomes strong. A person who practices gratitude becomes peaceful. None of these changes happen suddenly. They unfold quietly, powered by habits that feel insignificant in the moment, but transformative in the long run. Likewise, negative habits grow silently as well. A habit of complaining grows into a negative mindset. A habit of procrastination grows into missed potential. A habit of self-doubt grows into a limited identity. The destination is always revealed long before you arrive, through the habits you choose to sustain. Your habits also reveal the truth about your priorities. People often say they want one thing, but behave in ways that lead elsewhere. They say they value health, but consistently choose convenience over care. They say they want meaningful relationships, but give more attention to their screens than to people. They say they want growth, but refuse to leave comfort. Habits do not lie. They reflect what you actually prioritize, not what you claim to prioritize. When you honestly examine your habits, you uncover whether your daily actions align with the person you say you want to become. Your habits reveal your beliefs as well. If you believe you are capable, your habits will show consistent effort. If you believe you are not worthy of success, your habits will show self-sabotage. If you believe growth is possible, your habits will show learning and improvement. If you believe change is impossible, your habits will show stagnation. Often, a person's habits tell their story more clearly than their words ever could. They show where your mind lives, what you fear, and what you hope for. Habits are powerful because they function even when motivation disappears. Motivation is emotional and unpredictable. It comes and goes. But habits operate on a deeper level, creating momentum that carries you through days when you are tired, uninspired, or uncertain. When your habits support your goals, progress becomes automatic. When your habits contradict your goals, self-doubt and frustration take root. This is why understanding your habits is essential. They determine whether your future is shaped by intention or by unconscious patterns. Habits also shape your identity through repetition. Each time you act in a certain way, you confirm a belief about yourself. When you choose discipline, you reinforce the identity of someone who follows through. When you choose excuses, you reinforce the identity of someone who avoids responsibility. Over time, these repeated confirmations strengthen into a self-image that becomes difficult to break. Your identity grows from your habits, and your habits grow from your identity, creating a cycle that can either empower you or imprison you. Your future does not suddenly appear, it is built. It is built from the small choices you make every morning, the thoughts you entertain throughout the day, the behaviors you repeat without questioning them. If you want to know where your life is heading, look at your habits. If you want to change your destination, change your habits. What you repeat becomes who you are, and who you are determines the life you will live. Silence exposes the truth because it removes all the noise that normally distracts you from what is happening inside and around you. In daily life, you are constantly surrounded by voices, tasks, expectations, and responsibilities. You move from one activity to another without much space to understand what you truly feel or what you truly need. Noise becomes a shield, protecting you from uncomfortable emotions, avoided memories, or unfulfilled desires. When the world is loud, it is easy to stay busy enough that you never have to face yourself. Silence, however, takes that shield away. It strips life down to its essence and leaves you face to face with whatever you have been avoiding. In silence, your mind stops reacting and begins revealing. Thoughts you pushed aside begin resurfacing. Feelings you buried show themselves. Questions you never answered become clearer. At first, this can feel unsettling. Many people avoid silence for this very reason. It confronts them with their inner conflicts, insecurities, fears, and contradictions. But silence is not the problem, it is only the mirror. What feels uncomfortable is not the silence itself, but the truths that rise within it. These truths were always there, hidden beneath distraction, activity, and noise. When silence arrives, it simply uncovers them. Silence exposes your intentions more clearly than your words do. You may tell yourself that you are pursuing certain goals for noble reasons, But silence reveals whether your motives come from wisdom or insecurity. You may claim that you are fine emotionally, but silence reveals whether you are carrying unresolved sadness, anger, or confusion. You may insist that you are living authentically, but silence shows whether you have been compromising your values or pretending to be someone you are not. Silence does not negotiate. It reflects exactly what is happening within you. In silence, the mind slows down enough for patterns to become visible. You start noticing the habits that drain you, the thoughts that repeat without purpose, the fears that guide your decisions, and the desires that influence your behavior. You begin to see how much of your life is driven by autopilot. Without silence, these patterns remain invisible because you are too busy to observe them. Silence gives you the distance needed to witness your own mind instead of being controlled by it. This awareness is the beginning of change because you cannot transform what you cannot see. Silence also exposes truth in relationships. When you sit with someone in silence, you feel the quality of the connection without the filter of conversation. Silence reveals whether there is genuine comfort or hidden tension, whether the bond is authentic or forced. Words can hide a great deal, but silence reveals emotional reality. It shows whether you feel safe with someone, whether you are pretending, or whether you are holding back what you really want to say. In this way, silence becomes a tool for understanding the true state of your relationships. In moments of silence, the body speaks as well. You may notice exhaustion you have ignored, tension you have been carrying, or a sense of heaviness that your daily business helps suppress. Your body holds truth long after your mind tries to overlook it. Silence allows these signals to surface, reminding you that inner alignment requires listening not only to your thoughts, but also to your physical and emotional states. Silence exposes truth because it brings clarity. It reveals what matters and what does not. It shows the difference between what you want and what you need. It uncovers the values you hold deeply and the habits that contradict them. In silence, you realize how much time you spend chasing things that do not nourish you. You see which goals are genuine and which are inherited from others' expectations. You understand the difference between your authentic voice and the voices you have absorbed from the world. Silence teaches you that truth does not shout, it whispers. It has always been speaking, but you could not hear it through the constant noise of obligations, distractions, and social pressures. When you finally allow silence into your life, you create space for this inner wisdom to rise. This truth may challenge your current direction, but it also guides you toward alignment. It offers insight into where you are and clarity about where you need to go. Silence exposes the truth because it removes everything that distorts your perception. Without noise, without distractions, without external influence, you are left with yourself. And in that stillness, you can finally see your inner world with honesty, depth, and clarity. Discipline is the gateway to freedom because it transforms your life from something shaped by impulses and circumstances into something guided by intention and clarity. Many people think of discipline as a restriction, a set of rules that limits their freedom. In reality, discipline is the very thing that makes freedom possible. Without discipline, you become controlled by habits you didn't choose, emotions you can't manage, and distractions that steal your time. With discipline, you gain the ability to direct your energy toward what truly matters and away from what weakens or confuses you. Freedom is not the absence of structure, it is the result of choosing the right structure. When you cultivate discipline, you take responsibility for the direction of your life. You stop drifting and start steering. You begin making decisions based on purpose rather than impulse. This shift is powerful because impulses often lead to short-term comfort, but long-term frustration, while discipline leads to short-term effort but long-term fulfillment. A life ruled by impulses creates chaos. A life guided by discipline creates stability. The person who cannot control their habits becomes a prisoner of them, while the person who cultivates discipline becomes the master of their own path. Discipline gives you the freedom to trust yourself. When you follow through on your commitments, you build confidence. You learn that you can rely on your own choices, that you have the strength to push through discomfort, and that you are capable of creating meaningful change. This internal trust becomes a foundation that supports every area of life. Without discipline, self-doubt grows. You begin questioning your ability to achieve anything difficult. You break promises to yourself, and every broken promise weakens your sense of integrity. Discipline repairs this by proving through action that you have control over your own direction. One of the greatest freedoms that discipline provides is the freedom from regret. Without discipline, you may choose what feels good now and suffer later. With discipline, you may endure discomfort now and reap peace later. Regret often comes from moments when you knew what needed to be done, but chose the easier path instead. Discipline helps you make decisions your future self will thank you for. It helps you prioritize long-term well-being over short-term pleasure. In this way, discipline protects you from the emotional burden of looking back and wishing you had acted differently. Discipline also creates freedom through mastery. Anything meaningful in life, health, skill, creativity, purpose, requires consistent practice. Without discipline, practice becomes irregular, effort becomes inconsistent, and progress becomes limited. But with discipline, small daily actions accumulate into extraordinary growth. You begin to master your craft, your body, your mind, or your chosen path. Mastery is a form of freedom because it gives you options. The more skilled you become, the more doors you can open. Discipline unlocks those doors. Another freedom discipline gives is the freedom to focus. In a world full of distractions, focus has become rare and valuable. Without discipline, your attention is pulled in every direction. You become reactive instead of proactive. You start many things but finish few. This scattered energy creates stress and stagnation. With discipline, you learn to manage your attention with intention. You choose what deserves your time and what does not. You simplify your priorities. You create mental space for clarity to emerge. Focus frees you from overwhelm. Discipline also offers emotional freedom. When you practice discipline, you learn to manage your emotions instead of letting them control you. You learn to take action even when you don't feel motivated. You learn to stay calm under pressure. You learn to step back from emotional impulses and respond with wisdom. This emotional stability becomes its own form of liberation. A person who lacks emotional discipline is constantly pulled by anxiety, anger, or distraction. A person who cultivates emotional discipline remains grounded and intentional. Physical freedom is another gift of discipline. Caring for your body through disciplined habits, movement, rest, nutrition, and recovery gives you the freedom to live with vitality instead of limitation. Discipline in physical health is not about perfection, but about respect. You respect your future body enough to make wise choices today. This creates a life where energy, strength, and longevity become sources of freedom rather than barriers. Ultimately, discipline creates alignment. It aligns your actions with your values, your habits with your goals, and your behavior with your vision. When you live in alignment, you experience a deep sense of freedom because your daily life reflects who you truly want to be. You are no longer scattered, conflicted, or conflicted by contradicting behaviors. Discipline creates consistency, and consistency creates integrity. Through integrity, freedom emerges naturally, not as a reward but as a state of being. Letting go is stronger than holding on because it requires courage to release what is familiar, even when the familiar is heavy, painful, or no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Holding on often feels like strength because it involves effort, persistence, and the refusal to give up. But not all effort is meaningful, and not all persistence is wise. Sometimes holding on is a way of avoiding truth, delaying change, or clinging to illusions that provide temporary comfort. Letting go, in contrast, demands clarity, honesty, and a willingness to face uncertainty. It is a quiet strength, one that chooses growth over attachment and inner peace over familiarity. Many people hold on to things not because they are right for them, but because they are afraid of what life will look like without them. They cling to relationships that drain them because solitude feels frightening. They cling to old identities because the unknown feels overwhelming. They cling to beliefs that limit them because questioning those beliefs feels destabilizing. They cling to anger, resentment, or past wounds because letting go means accepting what happened and allowing healing to begin. Holding on becomes a shield against vulnerability. Letting go becomes a doorway to transformation. Letting go is stronger because it requires you to trust yourself and the unfolding of life. It means recognizing that not everything or everyone that enters your life is meant to stay. Some things serve a purpose and then must be released. Some chapters must close for new ones to begin. When you let go, you honor the natural rhythm of change rather than resisting it. You acknowledge that clinging to what no longer fits can block the opportunities, insights, and relationships that are waiting for you. Growth requires space, and letting go creates that space. Holding on can sometimes be rooted in fear, fear of loss, fear of regret, fear of loneliness, or fear of failure. These fears convince you that letting go will leave you empty. But the truth is that letting go does not leave you empty. It clears what is in the way of something more aligned. It returns your energy, your clarity, and your emotional freedom. When you let go, you stop carrying weights that were never meant to be yours. You stop forcing situations that demand more sacrifice than they offer in return. You stop trying to change what is not within your control. Letting go is also an act of acceptance. Acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. It means seeing reality as it is, without denial or distortion. It means understanding that some things cannot be fixed, some people will not change, and some paths are not yours to walk. Acceptance allows you to stop fighting battles that drain your spirit. It frees you from unnecessary suffering. When you let go through acceptance, you choose peace over resistance. You choose truth over illusion. You choose alignment over struggle. Letting go is stronger because it teaches you to trust the present moment rather than cling to the past or anxiously grasp for the future. When you release what weighs you down, you become more grounded, more open, and more connected to yourself. You begin to see possibilities that were invisible when you were focused on what you feared losing. You become more adaptable, more resilient, and more capable of navigating life's uncertainties. Letting go strengthens your inner stability because it reminds you that your worth does not depend on what you hold but on who you are. Letting go also strengthens you emotionally. You learn to process pain rather than store it. You learn to feel deeply without becoming attached to the feeling. You learn that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. Emotional maturity grows when you let go of grudges, old stories, outdated expectations, and self-blame. Letting go allows forgiveness to emerge, not necessarily for others but for yourself. It softens the heart without weakening it. There is also strength in letting go of control. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control outcomes, people, or circumstances. But control is often an illusion. Life unfolds with its own timing, and the more tightly you grip, the more stress and frustration you create. When you let go of control, you make room for flow. You discover that life becomes clearer and lighter when you stop forcing it and start allowing it. Letting go is stronger than holding on because it shifts your power inward. Instead of relying on external attachments, you rely on your inner resilience, your ability to adapt, and your capacity to create new beginnings. You no longer define yourself by what you keep, but by what you are brave enough to release. Through letting go, you reclaim your energy, your direction, and your freedom.